We are back, and we've got a great interview clip from Julia Chatterley and Brad Garlinghouse. He talks about the lack of regulatory clarity, the potential of Ripple moving, and XRP being a currency. Let's go ahead and roll that intro and get into this thing. Here we go.
This is Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Subscribe for new content notifications. Now, here's Brad Kimes. Come on in.
All right, welcome back to the show. You can follow me on Twitter at BackupBradleyAbove at the top of the screen and everything that we're talking about here. Let's go ahead and get started. Shout out to James Rule XRP for this one here. This is VeChain partners with a U.S. firm to power $102 billion seafood industry with their non-fungible token. They're going to work with the U.S. firm No Seafood to allow consumers to trace their seafood from catch to plate. Pretty remarkable. Moving forward, we got the U.S. lawmaker stimulus continues to work on the negotiations and the providing Americans with second round direct payment. The government is facing a shutdown. Could be prevented if lawmakers can pass a bill before December 11th deadline. Looking here is a quick reminder tonight. Everyone, tonight there is a XRP meetup at 119 First Avenue North, St. Petersburg, Florida, 7 p.m. I will be there. Mrs. Backup will be there. We will be joining remotely, but if you're in the surrounding area, please join Steve and Joni Gould-Bronson for the XRP meetup. Very much looking forward to talking to all of you at that. And we will be broadcasting live from the Digital Ledger channel, so make sure you go subscribe, hit the like and the notification bell to that page. All right, so buckle up. XRP could target a move of $1.80 as technical strength flourishes. We will keep an eye on it, looking at the price right now because of that. We are at 61 cents and holding strong today. We will keep an eye on it. And we are about to play you, by the way, the interview with Julia Chatterley and Brad Garlinghouse. And it is straight fire. I want to tell you right now that, you know, as we look at the fact that the dollar plummets and the Bitcoin is hitting its all-time peak, and knowing that XRP has had 185 or 87% gains over the last week or so, I mean, this is just remarkable what we're looking at here. And we will continue to watch that. And we also see, while the dollar is plummeting, the USDC governing body center adds JPM Morgan and R3 alum David Puth as the CEO, or Puth as the CEO. Consortium announced that it has onboarded Puth as the membership and adoption as the CEO of the USDC additional blockchain network continues to grow. So look, we need to keep an eye on this because I have a sneaky suspicion that the USDC is one of these private companies, private stablecoin issuances that could fall into the idea of, or understanding, as Brian Brooks, as Brian Brooks has talked about from the OCC about a public-private relationship. And I think that the USDC is really, really in position to do that. Okay, going forward, Jack McDonald, CEO of blockchain infrastructure company provider PolySign, expects an increase in M&A activity with traditional banks looking to buy digital custodians to get an edge in the sector. Now, this is interesting to me because, you know, PolySign said that they were going to launch in 2020, and we've yet to see them officially launch the company. So this is pretty remarkable because I think we all understand that PolySign, if you've been in this space, is a huge custody solution, able to scale into the trillions, their words, not mine. And it will be very interesting to see the role that they play going forward. You know, I kind of see them as a custody solution and a la / modern digital depository trust clearing corporation like DTCC, you know. So we'll have to see. It'll be exciting to see that roll out to get a full picture of what they're doing there. So, okay, looking here, this is a reminder. I covered it this morning, but I want to remind you of big news when it happens. Lloyds Bank is the first in the world to switch on Swift GPI instant connection. This is a big deal because they've been working for a couple years to hear them tell it on this article here, which I'm not going to read to you. But this shows you the level of involvement that they have with Bank of Australia, Lloyds, Barclays, DBS, Wells Fargo, BBVA. It saw cross-border payments credited to accounts in the UK, seconds and built in successful proof of concepts run by SWIFT and market infrastructure in Singapore and in Europe over the past 2 years, as well as Australia. And that is big news to me. And I think it's big news because while that is happening, we're seeing SBI tell us a few weeks ago that they are going to be testing XRP in the FX currency market, which is a $6.6 trillion market. Now, that to me is just remarkable. And I don't think, and I'm reaching on a limb here, but I just want to say that I think, Lloyd's announcing going live with Swift GPI and SBI saying they're going to be testing XRP in the FX currency market. This, to me, I don't think stays exclusive to one another. I think these things begin to merge as we start to snowball here, and I think we're about to snowball. Now, this is a really great comment about the video from CNN Julia Chatterley with Brad Garlinghouse today. XRP is going to melt faces, says Steve Gulbranson, and I agree. This interview is fantastic. And shout out to Bank XRP and everybody else that sent me this interview, as well as Steve Gulbranson. I'm going to play it from Bank XRP's page here and celebrate the fact that he's back in this space. Let's play the whole thing right here in its entirety. You're going to want every bit of it, and I may interject in a couple spots just to make a point, but let's just listen to what is talked about here. Really, really great interview, and shout out to Julia Chatterley for this.
Crypto fans have been reminding us of a headline from 2018, which reads, "Most cryptocurrencies will crash to zero," Goldman Sachs says. This was a note to investors warning about the risks that several, if not most, cryptocurrencies will fail. And just look at this over the last 12 months and what a rally there's been for these big three. XRP enjoying gains of 186%. Bitcoin and Ethereum, or Ether, also showing huge gains, as you can see. Now, XRP is the digital currency or asset that facilitates payments on the payment platform Ripple, which provides fast and cheap international transactions worldwide. The network is used by payment providers like banks and money services businesses. And I'm excited to say Brad Garlinghouse is Ripple's CEO, and he joins us now. Brad, fantastic always to have you on the show. I have to say, this year's been interesting. The rise of digital payments anyway, due to COVID. Some big investors throwing the towel in and saying, fine, I was a skeptic. I've changed my mind. Square, PayPal getting involved. What's driving the gains this year in your mind?
Well, first of all, Julia, thank you for having me back. It has definitely been an exciting year across crypto. I think one of the most macro important dynamics that is driving the crypto markets is the fact that many governments around the world are printing more fiat currencies. Here in the United States, you see, trillions of dollars of stimulus, and that means that we're inflating the US dollar. And when you
very quickly, I just want to remark that you're getting the message from Brad Garlinghouse right here that sets the stage that, the U.S. is in trouble, the dollar's in trouble, and this isn't the first time that he's leaned in and, directly said that there will be a debasement of the U.S. dollar, and we are seeing a dip in that. I covered that earlier as well. Let's keep going.
You inflate the U.S. dollar, there's many people that want to hold non-inflationary assets. You've seen the same dynamic really with gold and the year that gold has had. And so I think people are seeing crypto as, in some cases, a inflationary hedge. As you pointed out, you're seeing names like Paul Tudor Jones and Stan Druckenmiller come into crypto and see it as a investable asset. And I think those are important dynamics that are driving this market.
So you're saying that the greater share of the gains that we're seeing are being driven by the store of value argument here for digital currencies or digital assets, perhaps rather than utility function, which differs depending on which digital currency you're talking about, and quite dramatically.
And I mean, clearly, from the way she just framed that, Julia Chatterley got this space down cold. She knows exactly what's going on, the difference between Bitcoin and assets like XRP that have utility.
Yeah, look, I have said for years, and I've said with you, I violently believe that the long-term value of any digital asset is going to be derived from its utility. I think one utility is store of value, and you're seeing that across Bitcoin, you're seeing that across other cryptocurrencies that don't have an inflationary dynamic. As you introduced in the beginning of the segment, Ripple is using an open source digital asset, XRP, to solve a payments problem. And it's extremely good at that because it's extremely fast and extremely cheap on a per transaction basis, particularly at a time when a Biden administration is arriving. And I think things like climate change, things like environmental impact of energy usage will increase on the importance in the radar. I think there'll be more and more attention on the efficiency and scalability of a technology like XRP in contrast to other technologies that have what we call proof of work or mining, which takes a massive amount of power, as you know well, having followed this space.
Yeah, I mean, you tweeted about this. You said, hey, if we've got a government that's going to be more climate change focused, which clearly President Biden will be, then perhaps people like Square that are investing in Bitcoin need to be aware of this. I will point out, and you've also pointed out, that you are a Bitcoin holder. You want all currencies to succeed here, but again, it goes back to the idea of distinguishing between them. Do you see this as the end of perhaps Bitcoin dominance? It is talked about most. It has the largest market share.
What a great question.
When I go back to the chart that I just showed of the rise in value over the last 12 months, there is a relative outperformance of some of the other digital assets here versus Bitcoin. Is this the moment where we see the beginning of the end of the dominance of Bitcoin?
Well, I think Bitcoin's going to remain a very important kind of player within the crypto community. It has been, and I think will continue to be, for so many people, and even as you mentioned, Square and others, that when they first get involved with crypto, they start with Bitcoin, and then from there they expand their portfolio. I think it's important to have that entry point, to getting people comfortable. And so I don't think it'll change dramatically. I think Bitcoin has been, I think will continue to be, solving a use case, that utility question around store of value. But as you pointed out, I think they're going to see micro cases or even very large cases. In the case of XRP as a payments tool, particularly the way Ripple uses it for cross-border payments, you're talking about trillions and trillions of dollars that are flowing across border in a system that was really designed and built 50 years ago. I'm sure you personally have had the experience of moving money cross borders, and it's slow and it's expensive. And we can and will enable much more efficient and much cheaper solutions.
Yeah, it's the equivalent of steam engine technology, and it's not 21st century. We've talked about it on the show before. Talk to me about regulation, because this is what it distills down to, what the future of regulation looks like. You've said, look, we're a patriotic US company. We want to remain here, but the regulation here is, to some degree, suppressing innovation. It's restricting your business, and you see others doing better around the world. Where are you on the decision, perhaps, to relocate in order to facilitate growing the business?
We absolutely want to see the United States lead in this new arena that we call blockchain and cryptocurrencies. And I think we certainly saw that in the age of the internet 20 plus years ago, that the US had clear regulatory frameworks, and that allowed investors to come in and make those investments. Today here in the United States, we're actually out of step with some of the other G20 markets around the world. In the UK or in Singapore or in Japan, you have had that regulatory clarity. You asked why Bitcoin has outperformed, and one of the reasons is likely that there is clarity and certainty about Bitcoin's regulatory framework here in the United States. That hasn't been the case with other cryptocurrencies, including XRP. But when you have that certainty, when you have that clarity, if you're an investor or you're a developer using these technologies, you can invest in them and you can build on top of them with clarity and certainty. The U.S. has not provided that certainty yet, and we have been big advocates of a bill that was introduced in Congress called the DCEA, or Digital Commodity Exchange Act. We think it's a very important step in providing that clarity and that certainty here in the U.S.
Do you need that clarity before you IPO, Brad?
Well, that's a great question.
Sure is.
We have not been public about what our plans are to go public, with the exception that I've said, I think there will be public crypto companies. I had originally predicted we'd see them in calendar year 2020. I think you and I may have discussed that at Davos.
We did.
I think, the pandemic has affected a lot of things, and I think that has slowed things down a bit. But look, it's very clear there is enthusiasm for real use cases to solve real problems. And when those are scaled problems, I think you're going to see a lot of investor interest in both the crypto markets as well as the public equity markets. What
does an ideal regulatory framework look like for Ripple and for the digital asset XRP? I just want to give viewers a sense of how it's holding you back. Is it preventing you adding central banks to the platform? Is it preventing customers, particularly international companies, joining the payments network too? What specifically is it preventing at this stage?
Remember, while being asked this question, no matter where Ripple moves, if they're doing business here in the States at all, then you will be subject to the U.S. rules, whether you moved or whether you stayed. So just keep that in mind for this conversation. Here we go.
Well, oftentimes when I'm speaking to customers and we're talking to them about our product that uses XRP in the payment flows, they will ask me about the regulatory dynamics. And we have had customers say, look, until there's clarity in regulatory frameworks, then we're going to hold off. Now, that has not been the case because of the clarity and the certainty in countries, as I mentioned, like the like the UK or the UAE or Switzerland. You do have companies in those markets saying, absolutely, we're supportive, let's move forward. Here in the United States, we actually have about 95% of our customers are non-U.S. customers, and only about 5% are here in the U.S. And people say, well, why? You're a U.S. company. Why is that? One of the dynamics is we have U.S. companies who are waiting for clarity, and the clarity really emanates from the Securities and Exchange Commission. The U.S. SEC said 2.5 years ago, almost 3 really, that Bitcoin was not a security. And then they came out about 2 months later and said that Ether is not a security. And then they stopped and instead focused their energy on some of the bad actors in the ICO market, the initial coin offering. So for us around XRP and the over 100 companies that are working with XRP, getting that clarity and that certainty, it's very clear to me that XRP is being used by many companies as a currency.
It's been very clear to me it's being used by many companies around the world as a currency. Now, this is something we've been driving home for a long time and caught a lot of heat for. But I'll tell you what, don't believe me when I say it, but you might want to start believing Brad Garlinghouse when he says it, and you might want to start looking at the reason that the Federal Reserve is changing the definition of their version of money to include convertible virtual currencies, as we covered in depth through the PDF yesterday, as well as FinCEN themselves, which has already ruled that XRP is a currency. Continue to listen here.
You've had the U.S. Department of Justice refer to XRP as a currency. You've had FinCEN refer to it as a currency, but you haven't yet had that clarity from the U.S. SEC.
Yeah, it's hugely important. Brad, don't move a muscle because we're going to wrap up the conversation here, but you and I are going to continue to discuss, and I'll post the remainder of this interview on social media. So for now, Brad Garlinghouse, the CEO of Ripple, thank you.
Wonderful exchange. I cannot thank Julia Chatterley enough for the amazing conversation that she just had with Brad Garlinghouse. And I really thank Brad Garlinghouse for his candor on all of the things that are in front of Ripple and XRP currently at this time. Again, with the lack of clarity coming from the U.S., I would have to say that it really does come down to, I think we're about to get that clarity. And maybe it even comes tomorrow on December 3rd from the SEC. And maybe it comes in the way, in the form that you would never expect, the way the former chief marketing strategist, that's right, the former chief marketing strategist, Corey Johnson, said it when he was at Ripple. We may never hear from the SEC because the SEC doesn't rule on currencies, right? So that really is pretty interesting. And maybe that is something that we get in the conversations of the meeting tomorrow, even though the outline of the meeting for the SEC tomorrow does not specify crypto in the conversation at all. But you never know what will happen. This is crypto. You never know. But for now, the DOJ, FinCEN, and the Federal Reserve see convertible virtual currencies like XRP as money. Now we just need the SEC to acknowledge they either see it the same way or they are going to, reveal that they don't need to speak on it because it doesn't pertain to them, which is really the same answer. All I know is it's getting more exciting from here. The right agencies are putting the pressure now. If it all comes down to just one straw to break the camel's back, and it's the SEC, it's going to happen. I mean, it cannot sit in this manner for much longer, because the real truth of all of this is no matter how bad we want it, they need it more than we want it, and we wanted something awful. All right, that's going to do it for me. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe, leave a comment below, share with somebody you know, hit the notification bell, make sure you get all the notifications for videos, and check out all the links in the description box and the comment section for anything you may want or need. There's some really great products and services, of which all I use. All of them I do use, and you may find that it's something you would want or need for yourself as well. I'll catch all of you on the next one.